and welcome to the Public Safety Committee for Monday, April 14. Jack Weiss. Present are Dennis Zine and Ed Reyes. On consent, colleagues, why don't we handle, pursuant to your agreement, item 3 on consent, the naming of the Topanga Station, unless that's something that you want to talk about, Mr. Zine?
Well, we just have a question.
Oh, well, then we'll just call it, okay?
Okay.
Because then we'll just go through every item then.
Just a minor question.
Well, none of these items will take forever. So let's begin with Jim Featherstone.
Morning, John White, City Clerk. Item 1, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Mr. James G. Featherstone as the General Manager of the Emergency Management Department.
You really want to do this?
How many titles have you had since you've been there? Interim, temporary, permanent, not permanent, firefighter?
But the work doesn't change.
You know what? We're going to vote to confirm you. I'm going to lead the celebration and the parade for you. But since you've now had, a real solid run, a solid period of time to operate this department and to try to re-engineer it, why don't you, without using notes and stuff, just tell us. Come on.
Put that notebook away.
No, tell it. No. Because here's the thing. I think it's really important. I have the privilege of spending a lot of time with you and talking about these things. But it'd be really important for this committee as a whole just to hear your top 3 ideas about what your top 3 goals are, what the most important challenges that you face are.
One of the first, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. One of the first things that I did back in October was put a team together to develop a strategic plan. It's in rough draft form right now, but by the end of this month, we'll have a 3-year strategic plan for the department, which lays out a roadmap of where I think we should go. The other thing I did was we looked at the whole EOC activation and operation process. We were operating in a process which was circa 1985, 86. So we revamped the EOC operational process to make it more contemporary. And the other item that was a big priority was the management of grant funds. If everything goes well, by the end of this month, we would probably have in the neighborhood of about $12.6 million of grant funds for emergency operations-based issues for the city for the next 30 to 32 months. Those are probably 3 of the big items that we tackled right away.
Well, what are your biggest needs going forward? Resources, and I realize it's a resource-poor environment right now, but so it may be resources, it may be something more than that. It may be just changing the way the city thinks about these things, the way you're structured. Going forward, what are your biggest needs and challenges?
I think the whole concept of preparedness and not just preparedness in terms of everybody thinks, well, I need to have my earthquake kit, but preparedness, especially in the executive level and senior staff levels in city government in terms of command and control and incident and emergency management. Those are perishable skills, and if we don't continue to practice those and enhance them, when we use them, not if, but when we use them, we won't be on point. So that's one of my big challenges, is to get the strategic and grand strategic elements in the city to practice and exercise those capabilities more and more. So there is upfront and contemporary and on point as the tactical elements in the city in terms of emergency response.
One final question. I mean, one thing that I've noticed, at least anecdotally, when I read about disasters and attacks that occur in other jurisdictions, is the impact seems to fall disproportionately on those who are already most in need of help and government assistance. I mean, it tends to be poor and neglected members of the community who bear the brunt of these sort of actions. What is your philosophy in terms of dealing with that aspect of the issue?
It's interesting that you should say that, because in disasters and the whole evacuation discussions that go on and on, everyone talks about special needs. And I think people tend to think of special needs as physical disabilities, but special needs could very well be economic disability, because the evacuation in a more affluent part of the city is a totally different animal, or totally different action as evacuation in a less affluent part of the city. A more affluent part of the city, evacuation may mean just notifying people who've gone to a local hotel to wait out the bad times, as opposed to actually having to move people and sustain and support them for days on end, because they have no other means other than what the city can provide or direct them toward.
Anyone have questions for Cap?
Well, first, I want to congratulate you on your stamina and your tenacity and enduring all those titles. But today, this morning, actually, there is an announcement by a geological team. They'll be talking about the earthquake fault lines in the context of their history, when we anticipated to have movement. It's a study that's supposed to encompass the next 50 years, I believe. Will you be looking at that study? Will your team be looking at that study to see what areas of the city are being analyzed for activity or more prone for activity, given the findings of the study that is being announced today?
Yes, Councilman Reyes, I met with Dr. Lucy Jones back in November, so I've known about these new findings, and I was frightened when I left her office. It's not a 180-degree shift, but a significant shift from previous, I won't say predictions, but previous discussion. We will look at how how these new findings will impact the city, but more importantly, as we try to prepare ourselves for any no-notice emergency. The earthquake, when it happens, will be spontaneous, and as we prepare for any no-notice emergency, we will be able to overlay that over the after effects of a catastrophic earthquake in the area.
The ability to be prepared really equates to the ability to understand and be informed. Given the multilingual nature of our city and the economically distressed areas, as Councilman Weiss was mentioning, do you feel we've done enough to inform the populace, given that diversity? There's a big discussion about the documented, undocumented. Regardless of your documentation status, you still have a presence in the city, and you're still a human being. Our ability to expose everyone to that information, you think we've done a good enough job to reach out?
That's probably not a good question to ask me, because I'm going to always say no, we've never done a good enough job, because the outreach and informing the community at large is dynamic, and it's ongoing. I wouldn't be doing my job if I sat here and said we'd done a good enough job, because I know how dynamic it is. I think we're working on it. The multilingual information, the using automation, computers, et cetera. I won't say reverse 911 because that's trademarked, but the call-out system that we have in place, we're expanding that. We're looking more and more means to reach the community at large in the event of a no-notice emergency.
Is there anything the council offices can do to facilitate? We have community meetings, we have neighborhood meetings, we have interaction, and is there material that we should be dispersing that you might have available?
My staff, my Community Emergency Management Division, works with the council offices. In fact, one of the things we've done on my watch is we now send each council office an emergency preparedness brief, which is specific to your council district. And my folks also reach out to we have an ambassador program with the neighborhood councils, which the ambassador in each neighborhood council is our direct face-to-face emergency preparedness contact. And as far as the council offices, what we'd like to do is to engage the council offices in more actual training of the council offices, because the council staff actually becomes an extension of the ambassador program.
And this is the last question, Mr. Chair, is will someone in your team analyze the report that comes out this morning? And will, hopefully your review will give us a chance to understand how this study will impact our region, but more importantly, how perhaps there are fault lines that are more prone to, because of its history of either movement or non-movement, that we need to be more alert. And I think it's issues of degrees, but still, it'd be good to understand what is around you and how are the scientists viewing these different areas without causing a panic, without creating a sense of doom. It's more of being prepared. Do you feel that we might have some kind of analysis from that report?
Absolutely, sir. This whole year, this is the year of the earthquake. So the state exercise, the county exercises, et cetera, are all geared around a catastrophic earthquake. What this new report will do is give us a significant amount of specificity, as much specificity as earthquake predictions can have, but it'll give us specificity that we didn't have yesterday. And my staff will be pouring through this report, attend all the briefings, and any information or intelligence or enlightenment that we can bring to the city relative to the predictions from USGS, we certainly will do that.
So as a directive, if the chair agrees, perhaps we could have some kind of a summary as a result of that analysis, given what that report has to offer in terms of public information, and how the different regions in the city should be more alert to susceptibility given the history of those fault lines.
Yes, sir.
Tell us, work with Ms. Stengel and decide what schedule makes the most sense, but
Absolutely.
it'll be after the budget.
Yeah.
Sure. Where are you, or where is LAFD with respect to working with a new vendor on the call-out system, the reverse 911 system?
We tested a portion of the system during the countywide exercise, Higher Ground, several weeks ago. The system was successful. I mean, there's some fine-tuning that needs to be done to the system, but we've also now have LAPD on board, so we've added another component to the system. The system is expanding as we speak, so it's a matter of the technical experts working out some details.
Is it citywide?
I'm sorry?
Is it citywide?
In citywide, and it's just, it can reach anyone in the city at this point. But in terms of us being able to call every household in the city at once, that's a technical and it's almost a physics problem.
I'm sorry, is there an RFP out? Is there going to be one out? What is the
Currently, we have a vendor. LAFD has used this
the current system?
current vendor, and LAPD bought an add-on to the system. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the county is actually looking at, this is one of the vendors that the county is actually looking at also. So, because we don't want the call-out system to stop at the yellow line in the street. We want, whatever neighborhoods or communities are impacted, we want the folks to be
So
notified.
the county is taking the lead in looking at this?
I think since our system is in place, we're probably the lead. I think county is looking to either get the same system or a system that dovetails with the system that we have.
And that system's just on phone. Does it also include internet notification?
They're looking to do internet and cell phone notification.
Because a lot of people now are just using cell phone and not having a home phone.
Yes, sir.
So it'll include eventually all of them?
Yes.
All types of notification?
And we're also looking at a component to be able to address the hearing impaired community because.
That system that they receive,
Yes, sir.
some kind of device. But looking at your work experience, starting in the military and going to UFLAC, negotiating contracts, to specialized training, to other activities, Homeland Security, educational background, administration, emergency services, training division, and assistant general manager interim, and general manager interim. Now you finally reached the top ladder
Yes, sir.
in emergency management. Have you officially retired from the fire department yet?
May 31st.
May 31st? Okay. So I move approval of general manager.
Okay, congratulations.
Well qualified.
Look forward to working with you further.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah. DNA item, please. What?
Item 2, Police Department to present verbal report relative to the status of DNA testing, backlog, and cold hits.
Good morning, Mr. Matheson and Lieutenant.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sure. Greg Matheson, Director, LAPD Crime Laboratory. First thing, since your last report, 18 more sexual assault kits have been booked into property in 2008 for a total of 255. So we've had 255 kits booked so far this year. Our current backlog of work in the serology DNA unit is a total of 7,554. Out of that, 561 have been prioritized by detectives. The rest are sitting waiting to be given attention. For a moment, to give you a little background information on the status of your grant to us, we have analyzed a total of 41 cases so far. That's through the screening process. Out of those 41 cases, 16 of them look like they'll have some DNA in it that we'll be able to eventually upload into the system. That means 25 are completely done at this point. They were screened. There was no biological evidence to move forward on. To date, we've actually uploaded 2 cases to it and are waiting to see if we get a hit against the system. There are currently 19 that are in the process prior to being uploaded.
Thank you. Lieutenant?
Hey, Lieutenant Tia Morris, Robbery Homicide Division. And our stats this year versus last year, for all CODIS hits, we have 97, a total of 97 compared to 107 same time last year, for a 9% decrease. Homicide hits, 8 this year versus 8 last year, so it's a 0, we're the same. Sexual assault, 54 versus 56 last year. In every area we've decreased, we've had fewer hits during this time period. And I don't know, it may be because of something to do with your testing or the backlog, I don't know. Do you have can you offer anything on that?
Actually, I believe last year we had an exceptional number of hits is because the state uploaded so many new samples into the system. And now they're just on basically a maintenance level where they're putting in significantly fewer at a time. So last year would have been an exceptional year. The fact that we're even close to it at this point, I think, says a lot about the strides we made in getting more cases into the system itself.
And as far as our overall hits, or other hits rather, and that's burglary, robbery, and other, it's a 19% decrease, 35 this year versus 43 last year. And of the 97 total hits year to date, RHD is handling about 40% of those hits. And we have no stories for you this week. We're still working on some. We'll have a
Did
few.
Mr. Zine look disappointed that he wasn't?
He does look disappointed. I'm sorry, but we have, you know how the process being that we have to wait for the confirmation samples and so forth is why it kind of goes in trends where next time we might have a few that are out now for confirmation samples where we get those cases filed and maybe take someone into custody. So we do have a few of those pending right now. A lot of search warrants for those confirmation samples that we've done over the last couple of weeks. And so in the next week or two, we should have some filings or some dispositions on some of those hits that we've had recently.
Cool. Any questions, Colin?
Do you serve the warrants out of robbery homicide, or you turn those over to the fugitive warrant detail?
No, we go and serve them ourselves.
Okay.
And it's not until we get to the point where we go out and attempt to serve it and then we have to do a warrant package, then we turn it over to fugitive and enlist their help in getting those warrants served. But we generally make the first attempt ourselves.
Are they successful normally the first time?
Yes, pretty much we're successful because oftentimes these people, because they are repeat offenders, they're either on probation or on parole. And so recently we've been coordinating with the parole agents and probation and making our arrests at those locations. And then with the offenders who are incarcerated, of course, we just go up to the prison and we serve the warrant there.
Okay, good, thank you.
My assumptions are that the numbers are so low still that it's hard to see if there's an impact from the gangs or gang-related activity or cases associated to gangs. We can't make those findings yet.
We are noticing a lot more cases, a lot hits that are coming back that are associated with gangs. But as far as relating it to anything, as far as crime trends right now, there's really no, I mean, I'm sure we could probably do some kind of a query to determine that, like we spoke of before, the information that I provided you before. But as it stands right now, we just get hits and we look at it to see if it was associated with a gang or not.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the update. Appreciate the work you do.
Thank you.
Thanks, both of you. Mr. White, I've been asked to hold item 3 till the end of the meeting, so
Okay.
let's go straight into another classic Zine issue. Zine on Harleys, number
Yeah.
4.
Item 4, Police Department report relative to the maintenance and repair records of Harley-Davidson motorcycles, including a comparison with other motorcycles in the department's fleet. Pursuant to motion, Zine Smith.
Come forward, please.
We got the experts here.
We got you, Mr. Zine.
Neither of them ride a Harley, but they got experts here.
Are we better?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Larry Tagawa, Director of Police Transportation, LAPD. This is Otto Thor, Automotive Supervisor for our motorcycle shops.
Good morning. We have your report, Mr. Zine. Are there any specific questions you want to direct them to?
Well, the question is on the, we had a meeting at the motor shop with a representative from Harley-Davidson and the gentleman that we see before us, trying to figure out what the problem is. A lot of complaints regarding the starters, the maintenance of the Harley-Davidsons, the problems with the Harley-Davidsons. They've been in the business of police with LA again for 3 years. And it was an issue, came to my attention, the breakdowns that were constantly happening with the Harley-Davidsons. In the current year, they're looking at 22 new motorcycles, and the discussion has been, are they going to go with the Harley-Davidsons again, or are they going to go with another model, since the Kawasaki, which was a very dependable motorcycle, no longer makes the police bike. The report's got a lot of information on it. The issue with the breakdowns, are the breakdowns continuing as they have been, or has there been any improvement from the time we met and discussed the starters, the pipes, all those issues?
There's been a slight improvement, but some of the breakdowns are actually more major in nature. For example, we're starting to see more engine failures, definitely a concern. Some of the fixes that we have made on the Harleys actually have prevented some of the breakdowns. For example, on the exhaust systems, the wall thickness on the exhaust pipes were very thin, and we started seeing a number of failures. Otto in his shop actually put a metal strap on the exhaust pipe to prevent that failure. So actually, when we see some of these failures, we take steps to prevent them. So we are noticing a slight decrease in the number of failures.
The engines, how many miles before those are going out?
Anywhere from 20 to 40,000 miles.
And I heard something about, they were complaining about we're using the right oil.
They're investigating whether or not we are using the correct oil, even though when the contract went out, they did sign off on the oil that we are using. They have been supplied a sample with our oil, still waiting for results from that.
Or is it synthetic or just regular?
It's just regular oil,
The 40, 50?
1540 weight.
1540? Okay, the bid, is the bid out? Because I know one of the factors is the bid for the new 22, which is a reduction from what I know you anticipated getting. Is that bid come back yet, or is that still out?
No, we're in the process of revising that bid to address some of the prior issues that we've had. So that's not out yet.
I know one thing that they mentioned to me is they were willing to go for a 3-year warranty with a, was it 2004 price?
Harley made a verbal offer to us for the 08 bikes for a 3-year warranty at 05 prices. However, our main concern is always officer safety,
Right.
unscheduled breakdowns, and maintenance costs.
And then on the maintenance issue, is there a comparable between the, I guess the only one, you're not looking at the Honda, you're looking at either the Harley or the BMW?
One of the studies that we did is trying to compare data, apples to apples, where the 05 Kawasaki's and 05 Harleys. And the out-of-service time, as you can see in the report, is more than double. Actually, the Kawasaki's averaged about 10 days of unscheduled repairs. The 05 Harleys averaged about 29 days of unscheduled repairs. So that's definitely a concern, and there is the cost factor involved with that.
Yeah, because every time it's down, that motorcycle's out of use.
Correct.
So it illustrates there's been a problem for the 3 years. You're almost up to 300 motorcycles now with the
Yes.
Harleys?
297.
297, and out of the 297, all of them have had some kind of a problem,
Pretty much so, yes.
from brakes to exhaust to starters. I heard that every starter went out, all 297 starters went out?
No, not all of them. Most of the starters were on the actual 07 model. Due to the increase in the size of the engine, the starters started failing on them.
Is it the 103 or the 110 that you have?
It's a 103 cubic inch.
103? Okay. Do you have any of the 96?
No.
They're all 103?
We have 88 cubic inch in the 05, 06, and then in 07 they stepped up to 103 cubic inch.
And is there any intention to purchase the 110s or stay at the 103s?
I don't believe the police model is going to be at a 110.
Okay. All right, so yet to be determined what you're going to buy.
Correct.
Will you take Mr. Zine shopping with you, though? Because I think he'd really...
Yeah, I understand he gets some pretty good deals on bikes.
I shop
Oh, really?
wholesale.
Speaking to the mic, what are those?
If it's not wholesale, I don't buy it. And if it's quantity, we want a wholesale price. I'll be very candid with that. That's why we save money. So if we're going to buy motorcycles, obviously you want a motorcycle fleet. Are we the largest in the country now,
Yes.
with the motor fleet we got? And people look at LA to say, if you've got it, then everybody else wants to jump on board. But it has not met the expectations of when Harley first came around back to LAPD.
That's correct.
Been less than a stellar reputation as it once was, at least that it was intended to be. But thank you, Larry Otto. I know you guys spend a lot of time in trying to keep those bikes running for the officers so they can get the job done. That's all quick for that, Mr. Chair. We could receive and file.
Let's note and file. Let's show it the respect it deserves and note
Okay.
and file it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Did you get all that down there, Mr. Reyes?
And I'll take
No, Mr. Reyes fixes up cars, but I haven't seen him bring in a motion on cop cars. Maybe you will.
The Fords
You'll do
hold
that.
up.
All right, yeah.
The Fords haven't had a problem.
Yeah, you can do that. We'll talk about cars. Okay, item 5, I believe.
Item 5, communication from the mayor and CLA and CAO joint report relative to a grant award in the amount of $58,064,000 from the United States Department of Homeland Security for fiscal year 2007 Urban Area Security Initiative for the Los Angeles Long Beach area.
Good morning, Mr. Ali Khan et al.
Good morning. Arif Ali Khan, Deputy Mayor of Homeland Security and Public Safety. Also with me is Laura Shin, Grants Director for my office.
Camilla Vong, Office of the CAO.
Whoever wants to take it away, take it away.
Certainly. Thank you, Councilman. May I inquire, you spoke to the appointment of Jim Featherstone this morning?
Didn't make it.
He didn't make it through? Well, that's unfortunate, but I apologize for not being here. I was doing something with the mayor's event tonight, but I appreciate the swift approval of Mr. Featherstone. He's been doing a fantastic job, and we look forward to his permanent appointment. As you know, the Urban Area Security Initiative is an award that's given by the Department of Homeland Security for protection of our urban area, which is Los Angeles, LA County, and 26 partner cities. This money is intended to be used for counterterrorism efforts and certain efforts regarding any other all hazards or other type of emergency disaster. A $72 million award was made last year by the Department of Homeland Security to our urban area. Pursuant to the regulations, the state takes a 20% share of that, giving us a total award of $58,064,000. What we've done this year, which is different in past years, is we've decided to split the transmittal process by putting first through the partner cities allocation. This enables us to get a swifter process in order for them to go through their legislative process to actually accept the money. Separate from that, we have the city awards to the 4 departments or 4 more departments that we are in the process of working with the CAO and getting that transmittal as soon as possible. This award goes to a variety of areas, including 9 focus areas that include regional planning, training, and exercises, regional public awareness and community preparedness, interoperable communications, which of course is a very urgent and important area, information sharing, terrorism and emergency response capabilities, medical surge capabilities, emergency mass vaccination capacity, critical infrastructure protection, and then emergency management mutual aid. I believe the 14 partner jurisdictions with the grant allocations is included in the CAO report, and the City of Los Angeles, just incidentally, will receive $36,797,352 of the share that will be itemized and detailed with the position authority requests in the separate transmittal.
One question I have, very specific question for you is, are any of these sheriff's monies in here?
Yes, the LA County portion, which is approximately $11 million, a portion of that will go, I believe, to the Sheriff's Department's programs, as well as other programs within the county for fire department, emergency management, et cetera. I'm not sure if I have the precise number of what's going for the sheriff.
That information is not included in this, but
we can certainly provide that to you.
I know you've been involved in some efforts with respect to an advisory committee that the sheriff has that is funded through these funds in part, I believe, and I just wanted to ask you how things were going with respect to merging some of those elements with some of our elements.
We're moving forward with that. We've had initial discussions with the organization that actually runs that advisory committee, and they were scheduling a meeting with the sheriff to go over the details.
Glad to hear that. Thank you. Colleagues, this is the transmittal for the non-City of LA funds. So they're not here to answer your questions today about where the LA funds are going to go, although they probably have a good idea. Other cities and other jurisdictions get funds just because it's a big pig out pool for Homeland Security. Any questions for them, colleagues, on this item?
No.
There's one. I understand this is going to other cities, but the portion that the city will be receiving, every grant has reporting instructions, ways to define accountability. Given the different budget items that have been isolated, how are we going to evaluate the effectiveness of using these funds within the city of LA? Do we have anything in writing that speaks to that?
Well, we have investment justifications that specify what the goal is for each of the projects, and then specific projects with various milestones to achieve them. Basically, the money is used for basically 2 types of things: purchasing equipment and then training, and in some situations, personnel. So it's not necessarily a programmatic type of thing. It's really to purchase things pursuant to a goal. As part of that, the Department of Homeland Security regularly conducts audits and evaluations of how we are using the money, the sustainability of the projects, and then the State Office of Homeland Security is constantly monitoring to make sure we're making those goals. A good example of this would be LA RICS, which is the interoperability project, where we have a master plan, and as we get the funding, we apply it to different phases of the plan and achieve those particular milestones.
So when you look at acquisition, the purchase of specific items through these different goals, the companies that receive these funds in exchange for their goods or services, where do these companies come from?
Well, we first issue a request for proposal. Various companies bid for them, and then based on the procurement rules of the city, those will be awarded after a committee reviews the proposals. So they come from a variety of areas. A lot of the equipment oftentimes is specialized equipment because it specifically has some technological capability to help encounter terrorism. So they come from a variety of sources.
that's correct. We do a formal procurement process. If there's a cost of over $100,000, and we will follow all city rules, and we're in compliance.
So the notion of reinvesting in the city, businesses in the city, that whole orientation, is that built in anywhere within the law?
I'm not sure in the procurement process that may be a factor, but I'm not totally familiar with those rules.
From what I'm aware of, it's not a requirement that we need to contract with LA City businesses, but that is a consideration in terms of.
Well, given the economic times we're in, and given the state of our economy within the city, and the notion of supporting small and medium-sized businesses within the city, I believe it behooves us to initiate, if not provide that kind of incentive, so that we can keep those resources within the city within the law. I mean, that's just something that I want to put out there for the record, so that we can look at how we sustain our own city in its various dynamics. So just something I want to address, and perhaps you can give us some feedback as you're going through the process, how that's working out. It's just a focus I think we should be having during these economic times, even on good economic times. It's just something that just makes sense to me. So could we perhaps provide, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of nods.
Certainly, we can provide directly to your office or to the committee the process and the progress and the vendors that we're using. From what I understand, that's.
I mean, there is a requirement that we do need to reach out to minority and women-owned small businesses in terms of our outreach and where we publish these notices for the procurements.
Okay. It would be good to know how money is being dispersed. These are grant funds that support the city for city objectives, and they'd be healthy to also benefit city businesses.
We understand. We can provide information about where the money is going to and what vendors there are winning the particular contracts.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Okay, we appreciate the presentation, and we will approve.
I'm sorry, Councilman, can I just add one more thing? We had a request from Councilman Parks to make a request to the grantor to see if we could add the CLA to the UASIO 7 governing body resolution, and we will do so. I just wanted to state that for the record.
All right, I'm sure you don't have enough people sitting around that table, so yeah, bring your own chair. Okay, thank you. With that, we will submit it to the full council with our recommendation that it be approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and finally, this is the day we can say it should be the Topanga Police Station, right?
Well, there's a question.
Oh, maybe
whether
not.
it's
Okay.
Topanga Community or just Topanga, and that was the question where we needed an expert to come forward
Okay,
on that item number 3, Mr. Chair.
all right.
John, you want to talk?
Motion Zion Smith Labange and Smith Zion Rosendahl relative to naming the new 21st Area Police Station the Topanga Police Station.
Mr. Parks had created or made a statement concern about using the term community after Topanga, and it was unknown if that's the current philosophy or if they're just naming them whatever they name them.
Good morning. My name is Tom Renner, and I'm commanding officer of LAPD's Facilities Management. Currently, there is no consistency in how the stations are named with their signage. The recently, almost just about to move in, completed Rampart facility. The name is Los Angeles Police Department Rampart Police Station.
No community in there?
There is no community in the signage. I've actually met with the Office of Operations as we went through this process, and we looked at the signage at all of the facilities, and there are some that say community police station. There are, say, for example, Southwest is the Homer Broom Southwest Area Community Police Station. 77th is part of the Jesse Brewer Regional Facility. There's no signage specifically for 77th. There's North Hollywood. It says North Hollywood Police.
What about the new Mid-Wilshire Station? What's that going to be called?
The station that will be on Vermont and 11th, currently, we expect that a motion will come through to name that the Olympic Station.
You mean the one in my district, Dennis? That one? I think they're going for Olympic.
That,
No, it's going to be Olympic Community or just Olympic Station?
I understand it's just Olympic.
at this,
Because the reason that Topanga came up was we did a contest, and the 500 names were submitted, and the winner got a $1,000 from Westfield shopping spree, et cetera. You were there at the
yes, sir.
at the unveiling, so
You want to get the money back?
no. They gave, actually, the lady was very generous. She gave the money back to the new station to use for the station facility, and then Westfield was very generous. They gave her another $500 to go on a shopping spree. So Westfield ended up spending $1,500 on that, in addition to all the advertising. But we wanted to bring the community on board, and that's why we came up with the name Topanga, and then Mr. Parks had brought up Topanga Community Police Station. So we're trying to figure out, does community have to be a part of it, or the official name that we came up with was Topanga Police Station, and that's why we needed you here, right, June? Bring Tom the expert in to figure out what we're going to do.
You know what I'd recommend, Mr. Zine?
That's how it started.
I just, at some point, this becomes kind of a political cartoon about how long we can sit around and talk about whether this one word is in or out. Why don't you and these two experts talk about it together and reach a decision before it gets to full council? Let's just talk it over. Because it's your district.
Well,
Mr.
I mean-
Reyes and I would defer to whatever you.
Well, here's the only
come up with.
here's the only problem, is that the winner was Topanga Police Station. People who entered Topanga Community Police Station did not win the $1,000. So that's one of the issues.
At this point, the signage for the station has been ordered as the Topanga Police Station.
So I think that what we should name it is the Topanga Police Station to avoid future problems with people who may claim I named it something that now you're changing it to.
Well, you know what? Why don't we just agree that all the also-rans will get a ride on your bike with you? Okay? Little consolation prize there.
So I think we should leave it as it is, in respect that there's no official policy, and that's what the name that was chosen. But I know that we went through community policing for a while, where we had substations and stop-in
That's
centers.
a motion to leave it as it is?
I will make the motion, leave it as it is.
Okay with you, Mr. Reyes?
I'm fine with that.
All right, cool.
There we go.
We've named something that's already been named.
Thank
Great. All right.
Thank you
We
very
cleared the
much.
confusion. Thank you. It was not confusing.
Order
but
signs
then it
first,
became
vote
confusing.
later. Okay.
That was happy
That's
with the way
it.
it was.
Mr. White,
Thank
except
you.
someone put a comment card
Public
in.
comment card, please.
Michael McGuire, you have 2 minutes to address the committee.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, council members. Trust you all had a good weekend, and it's Monday, and we're all raring to get back to work. I've taken some time off from what I do to pay the bills to come down here and address the committee, and thank you for having me. And I would like to suggest, to plead, to ask you to please bring Jamil's law before this committee. It's not a law. Let me rephrase that. The resolution, as proposed as a law, before this committee. Let's have an open discussion about it before this committee here, so that the community can come down and voice their opinion. I think they are demanding it. I'm asking you. But I think the voice of the community has spoken. And they would really like to see that resolution debated here before the committee. Please, Mr. Weiss, do everything you could to agendize that. Let's bring it forward. Let's have that discussion, and hopefully come out of this committee with unanimous approval. After it has been discussed, bring it to the full council for a vote, and see that justice is done in this community. I think everyone here in the community would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your public comment. That closes the committee for the day. Dennis, these are for you to sign.